Hey there, I'm Lance.
I'm Sam.
And we are Love to Hate, where we help gamers find great games to play with non-gamers.
And today we're taking a look at Genotype by Genius Games.
Genius Games was kind enough to give us this copy for review, so we're going to show you how this game works, show off some of the components, and let you know our thoughts on it. But Genotype is a game in which you are going back in time at the beginning of really gene science and the understanding of how genes work and manipulation of genes. And you are going to be working with pea plants in this game, trying to manipulate the different types of pea plants to get the types of genes that you want for the right pea plant that you're trying to produce. So let's take a look at how this game works, and we'll come back and share our thoughts as far as a gamer and non-gamer go on Genotype. All right, I have Genotype from Genius Games on the table here. Let me show you guys how this worker placement game works. This is quite a big board, lots of different actions that you're going to see on here, and you are going to see Kickstarter upgraded components. So if you get the retail version of this game, you are not exactly going to have the components that you see here in this segment of the video. Let me explain to you how this game works, in which you are going to be working with pea plants, trying to get the different genes of pea plants that you want to be able to fulfill your contract cards here. In other words, this is a contract fulfillment game as well. And how this works, players are going to have a number of workers. You start with 3 at the beginning of the game. These are your workers here. But you are able to get 2 additional ones throughout the course of the game. And you're going to place them out on the board. This is the working phase part of the game. And so let me go over some of the different places that you might place your workers. If you are wanting to try and manipulate the different genes, and I'll come back to what this does in more detail, then you might place it on one of these 4 different parts of the board. If you're the first person to place either on this spot or first shift, which we'll come back to here in just a second, on either one of these color lines, then you get to take the coin here that is going to be there at the beginning of a round. And these are metal coins with the Kickstarter upgraded components, by the way. Going here is going to let you change the different dynamics of what you might get when you roll these dice by manipulating with these different banners here that show you either lower T's on one side or big T's on the other side. And this is obviously for the T gene here. And so if I were to take this banner, I would place it right here, either again on the big T's or little T's. And as you can see, this changes the different dynamic of what I might roll and what I could get. So rolling a 1 is going to give me big T, as well as a 3. Rolling a 2 or a 4 is going to give me big T, which is going to change what genes I get. You can see here big T, little t, both equal tall pea plants, whereas little t gives me a short pea plant. And when I've placed this banner here, I've completely eliminated the possibility for a little t. And you can see here I could place this banner here and get all big T's. That's how that works by going to this space here. Now, if you go to first shift, what you are giving yourself there is you are getting first dibs at any dice that come out here for this particular line in the next phase, where we roll the dice and then we will select the dice. So that's what those 2 spots there do for you. If you go to second shift, you're going to place your spade here as far to the right as possible. After all the first shifts have gotten to take their dice, then it will go to second shifts in the order from right to left. Placing here at the research goal station, if I place here, I would pay 2 coins. If I place here, I pay 3 coins. And then I get to take one of these markers here and place it on top of any one of these spots, which these are going to give me extra bonus points at the end of the game for every one of my pea plant cards here that match that particular type of genes. So for instance, big F is going to be purple. I want purple plants, and if I were to have this here, then this particular card would give me 2 extra points at the end of the game, as well as any purple plants that I might have. So that's how that works.
If I come over to this side of the board, I can go visit the treasury to make some money. I will get 2 coins. This spot here is only available in 4 or more player games. If I go to the university, I can pay a coin or 2 coins to be able to get a leaf here to cover up any one of my requirements on these cards that I am getting throughout the course of the game. And so I might cover up Big F here. This card would be on my player board like so in my garden plot. And we'll come back to what this does later on in the game, covering up those different genes. If I come here in the nursery, I will get first pick at what additional cards that are available in the nursery. These are the contracts that I'm trying to fulfill. And if I go to the tool shed, then I am going to be able to get tools, which are going to help me throughout the course of the game. And yes, there are lots of icons in this game that are going to take some time for you to learn and remember what they do. Now, after everyone has placed their workers in player turn order, then we are going to go to the plant breeding phase, which is where you're going to roll this massive amount of dice all at once, re-rolling any of these symbols that you get. And if these come up again, then you are then going to place them in their matching section. And you would do the same for all the other dice. This would obviously go into this section. You would go off of the grid, actually, and so a 2 would be big T, little t, unless we, again, manipulated the different genes here. So big T, little t would go right there, and you would do that for all of the dice. And after you've put all the dice where they're supposed to be, then again, you would go to first shift. You would go and see, did anybody take first shift here in the blue line? And if so, then that person would get first pick at any blue dice that they want. And when you take a die, so for instance, let's say I take this one right here, that is a big T, little t. And so I look at the P plant cards that I have on my player board, and if I see that there's one that says big T, little t, then I can take one of those leaves right there and cover up big T, little t, such as this card right here. If it were on my player board, I could cover up big T, little t. Now, once you've covered up all the different requirements on a card, you could take the gardening action. I forgot to show you that there are actions on your player board here. Taking the gardening action will actually allow you to take plants off of your player board and put them face down to score at the end of the game, as well as getting new plants to put onto your garden plots. Taking these spots right here will allow you to take extra dice when you're drafting dice from this side of the board, because you can only take up to 3 unless you place some of your workers right here to allow you to open up these spots. Now, what these X dice do real quick, they are going to allow you to treat these as wild, but you do have to take one additional die at the time that you're taking that X die, and so it's going to take up extra spots on your player board whenever you take these. But again, that's wild. You can make it count as anything in that row. It has to be an R gene. Or instead of doing that, you can simply take this die and discard it to be able to gain 1 coin. After everybody has completed all the dice that they want to take, covering up the genes that those dice match, then you would come over here to the research upgrade phase part of the game, in which, starting in player order, you would get 1 opportunity to purchase one of these things over here, such as a new plot, which is going to allow you to take an extra P-plant card that you could be working on throughout the course of the game, paying the amount that is covered up. So at the beginning of the game, it's 2 coins. Or you might take a dice slot, so that's an extra dice slot for you. You might purchase one of your additional workers, or you might hire an assistant, which these are assistants over here. And again, you've got more icons to remember throughout the course of the game. And anytime someone purchases something, the price is going to increase 1 for the next player. They're going to have to pay 3 for an assistant if someone purchased one. At the end, once everybody has done their 1 purchase, all of these are going to go back down in 1 value, and that will set the price for the next round. This is going to continue for 5 rounds, keeping track right there at the top of the board. Whoever has the most points at the end of the game for their P plants that they've completed, you will also get 1 point for any uncompleted cards that have leaves on them, 1 point per leaf on them. And you will get points for any of the different genes that you said you were trying to research towards by placing these markers out here. Whoever has the most points is going to be the winner, and that is how you play Genotype. Let's go back up top and share our thoughts on this one.
And we're back, and right now we're going to show you some gameplay footage of Sam and I's game and let you know our thoughts on Genotype. Sam, initial first impressions as far as that goes with this game. You got a lot of dice, the board's kind of big, you have your own player board. What were some of your first thoughts when you first saw this game?
It's definitely overwhelming, or it's a lot. It may not be overwhelming, but it's a lot visually to look at. It's a worker placement game, and thankfully I have played quite a bit of those, and so I understand the concept of it. But at the same time, worker placement games can in themselves be slightly overwhelming because of all the choices that you have the ability to make. So Genius Games is accurate because you do feel like you are really, trying to be a scientist.
Okay, all right. Yeah, you're absolutely right there. One thing we've said on the channel in previous videos before is just that worker placement games tend to be more of the complicated, harder games to play with non-gamers and to teach when teaching with non-gamers because of the aspect of needing to know what every spot on the board does and grasping an idea of when to use those spots in order to do the best strategically. So it is a harder kind of game to work with non-gamers. And in this game in particular, there are an abundance of places that you can place your workers at. So I completely understand and agree with that this game can be pretty overwhelming, or at least in the beginning it can be. I do feel like as the game progressed in this one that you're watching us play, Sam, you really kind of started to grasp that as the game continued. So I don't think that this is an extremely difficult game by any means, especially for gamers, but
I think you need to figure out what your end goal is. What are you going to focus on? You can't focus on everything. You don't even get the chance to do everything.
Yeah.
There's just not the time or the rounds.
You don't have enough workers to do everything that you want to do every round. So that is something to keep in mind. So now, I will say, as a gamer explaining this game, it is a bit overwhelming trying to make sure that the people that you're playing with do understand all the different ideas behind it, because it's such a unique game. The idea, the theme of this game is very much tied into the mechanics, and that is one huge pro that I have with this game, that it is very thematic, very immersive. You do really feel like you are manipulating those genes. And like Sam, you said, you feel like a scientist in this game. And I think that's really, really cool. The flip side to all of that is you might not really feel fully confident that what you're doing is getting you the results that you want. And maybe that's kind of part of the theme too, that it's, science is kind of trial and error a lot of times.
Yeah.
And so you might not get what you want, and that's something you got to live with this game. So, Sam, let me ask you, because, you're in the medical field, you're a nurse, you're involved in science. Was there anything about the theme of this game that kind of stood out to you?
I mean, I did enjoy it. I like the idea of working with genes and how, this and that make that.
Mm-hmm.
I like that. So it was definitely an interesting theme for sure. Something that I was interested in. It's just a lot to get to that point. You're not merely just working with the genes. There's so much more to it than that. It's almost like two games.
Well, actually, I'm glad you said that, because there's so much with this main board that's going on here that it does sort of feel like a lot of different ideas, and they're all big ideas. There's not anything here that you can just totally disregard and expect to still do well in this game. I mean, you have the dice manipulation factor, which is the main way that you're going to get the genes that you need to fulfill your your plants. And then you've got that market over there in the top right corner of the board where you can buy things and how that works. And then you've got the card drafting in the bottom right corners of the board where you're going to get tools and assistance and that sort of thing. Or more plants, not assistance, excuse me. So there's a lot of big ideas here with this game. And you can't, like I said, disregard anything if you want to do well. So Sam, as a non-gamer, having all these big ideas, big mechanics, does it all mesh well for you?
I think that this might be one game where my gamer side would come out more just because I've seen games like this before. I've experienced them. Whereas I can imagine as a true non-gamer who does not play games often, not just one that hates games like me, this could feel disconnected. It could feel overwhelming. Whereas I can see it meshing together. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Can I play as a non-gaming gamer?
I don't know about that and how much that makes sense, but the things you said as far as the disconnect between the different mechanics go, I do kind of see that, and that can be a bit of a mental obstacle to have to overcome if you're learning this game for the first time as a non-gamer and wanting to do well in it. And so, yeah, I think for gaming as a gamer when it comes to this game, I do think it all really works very well. The theme holds it all together, and just, it's very immersive experience because it does make sense. You want to have tools to be able to do your job as a scientist well, or you need the assistants to help you to do your job. All that makes sense. And as a gaming experience for a gamer, I think it all really works well, and it's a solid experience. Maybe a little overwhelming or disconjointed if you're a non-gamer.
Yeah.
So let's get into our pros and cons for Genotype. Sam, you as the non-gamer, what were some of the pros you had with this game?
I mean, it's an interesting theme. It's an interesting game. The setup, it's a pretty game.
Yes.
A lot of thought has gone into this for sure. It's not terribly long.
No.
With as much that's going on. It is on the shorter side of, especially for a worker placement game. Those games can go quite long. So yeah, I think very interesting.
Now we'll throw out the caveat there, not terribly long, maybe for 2-player games. If you are playing at the high player counts, I think the game can go on. The box says 45 to 75 minutes, and I would fully expect 5-player games to go to that 75-minute length.
Yeah, I think we were probably right at the 45-minute, which for me to think that that's short means that you've turned a corner.
You've turned a corner there, yeah. How about any cons with this game?
I mean, it can just, I think everything that we've said, it can feel disconnected. It can feel a bit much. It could be a little confusing for a non-gamer, especially if this is someone that's really going from the basic Monopoly games. This is not something I'd be like, hey, you want to play a game and have this set up. It's a lot.
You're definitely going to want some other worker placement games to try out with first before coming to a game like Genotype.
Yeah.
I mean, it is a deeper, heavier game.
Yeah.
As a gamer, it's not super complicated. It's not one that's going to be so heavy that you're going to get a lot of gamers bogged down in it. I think it's one that they will be able to kind of pick up and run with after you explain it to them a time or two. But definitely with non-gamers, I think that's going to be the case. So I will also throw out there maybe a con for me is just I found that a lot of the things I wanted to do in this game, I was able to do, which really isn't the case a lot of times in worker placement games, because the idea behind a worker placement is to cause the stress of I can't accomplish everything that I want to accomplish, either because the spots I need to go to are already taken and that keeps me from being able to do what I need to do this time around, or just don't have enough resources to be able to do everything I need to do. And I would say that I didn't find that to be as much the case in this game. If there was something that did present itself as an obstacle, it was just simply the fact I didn't have a ton of abundance of workers to be able to put out. Outside of that, I felt like I could really do what I wanted to do more often than not. And so if you're really expecting this to be a restrictive experience, I don't know so much that that's the kind of gaming experience you will have in Genotype. It's more of a kind of free flowy, like you manipulate the dice and get what you need, or buy more pea plants and work from that angle. At least that was my experience when it comes to that, and so that might be something to keep in mind. Scale of 1 to 10, love to hate, Sam. What do you give Genotype?
I mean, I think, again, I'm coming from the non-gaming gamer perspective for this game, and I'd probably give it a solid 7.
Okay, yeah, for sure. I'm a little higher than that. I think that this is a very unique thematic game, and I think the theme is the big thing here that really drew me into it, how well the theme presents itself, and that's going to, increase my rating a little bit. So I'm going to give it a 7.6. Think it's a great, works those mechanics very out well with the theme. So one that you probably wouldn't recommend with non-gamers.
Yeah, I think it's just a little too heavy for non-gamers.
There you go. That is Genotype from Genius Games.
Make sure to like and subscribe and push that bell button so you get notifications of all our new content.
I'm Lance.
I'm Sam.
And we are Love to Hate, where we try to bridge the gap between gamers and non-gamers. We'll catch you next time.